Jayden had never been comfortable staying home alone, especially not in their creaky old house on the edge of town. The place had a personality of its own, groaning walls, whispering vents, and doors that seemed to shift without a breeze. Tonight, however, his parents had to attend an emergency family event, and Jayden, now 13, was deemed old enough to manage on his own. They left him with strict instructions, take out pizza, and a fully charged phone, reassuring him they'd return. Before midnight, Jayden nodded, trying to act brave, but the moment the front door clicked shut behind them, a heavy silence fell over the house that felt unnatural. At first, he tried to keep his mind busy. He flipped on the TV, pulled out a blanket, and nestled into the couch. Cartoons played, but they didn't feel comforting. Every few seconds, his eyes flicked toward the hallway, drawn to it like a magnet. It wasn't just the shadows dancing along the walls. It was something else, something deeper. Like the hallway was aware of him, watching him as much as he was watching it. He chuckled nervously, blaming his imagination, but the unease clung. To him like damp clothes. Around 8:30 p.m., the wind picked up outside. Branches scratched against the windows, creating screeching sounds that sliced through the silence. Jayden turned the volume on the TV up. He kept telling himself it was just wind, just the trees, just the house being old. But the feeling in his chest disagreed. It wasn't just nerves, it was dread. He grabbed a flashlight just in case and kept it within reach on the coffee table. The living room light above him flickered once, then returned to normal. Jayden looked around cautiously, every corner of the room feeling like it held a secret. The hallway again, that yawning, dark stretch of space. The deeper he stared into it, the more it felt like someone was standing just beyond view, holding their breath. The feeling grew heavier with every passing minute, wrapping around his shoulders like a pair of unseen hands. The shadows seemed to lengthen, stretch unnaturally, crawling up the walls. He glanced at the time, 8:47. Only an hour had passed. But the fear building inside him made it feel like a lifetime. Jayden sat stiffly on the couch, trying not to acknowledge the strange feeling crawling up his spine. At first, he thought it was just anxiety, but then he heard it faint, soft tapping, like fingernails against wood. He muted the TV, holding his breath. The sound stopped. Silence pressed in from all sides. He slowly turned his head toward the kitchen, thinking maybe something fell or cabinet shifted. But everything remained still, untouched. The tapping returned, this time from behind the living room wall, too rhythmic to be random, too deliberate to ignore. He stood up cautiously, his bare feet making almost no noise against the wooden floor. He tiptoed toward the hallway, flashlight in hand, and listened. A whisper carried through the air, barely audible but unmistakably real. It didn't say words he could understand, more like a hush, like breath brushing across his ear from a distance. He spun around, but no one was there. His skin prickled with goosebumps, his heart thudding harder. He looked at his phone. No messages, no missed calls. No signs of life besides his own dot. As he backed slowly into the living room, the lights dimmed. Not all at once, but in waves. First the hallway, then the kitchen, and finally the bulb above him began to flicker. The sound returned, this time more defined, like soft footsteps walking across the floorboards overhead. Even though he knew the attic was sealed shut, his chest tightened. Then a giggle, high-pitched, playful, completely out of place. The kind of sound a small child might make when hiding in plain sight. Jayden whipped around again, scanning every corner of the room, his flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. That giggle echoed faintly, seeming to move from one room to another. Something wasn't just inside the house, it was moving through. Jayden's heart sank when he heard it again, that same voice, soft and mocking, almost playful. It wasn't loud, but it was clear, too clear. A child's voice whispering through the dark, "Chucky's gonna get ya." It came from the hallway, but when he turned to look, nothing was there. The voice didn't sound like it came from a television or a phone. It was too real, like someone was standing just a few feet away, saying it directly to him. He clutched, the flashlight tighter, trying to convince himself it was his imagination. Some twisted echo from an old horror movie playing tricks on his mind, but the air had changed. It was heavier now, colder. Each breath felt like he was inhaling fog. He backed away from the hallway, but the voice came again, closer this time and slower. "Chuakizi's gonna get ya." It wasn't just a threat. It sounded like a promise, like whoever said it was enjoying the fear it was causing. Jayden's legs locked in place as he stared into the hallway, waiting for something to emerge from the shadows. But there was only stillness, only darkness. Then the whisper shifted, now coming from the other side of the room. "Chucky's gonna get ya," it repeated, sing-song and teasing. Jayden spun around, and again, no one was there. The voice now echoed like it was inside the walls, sliding through the air vents, crawling across the ceiling. He wanted to run, but where? Every direction felt unsafe. He moved slowly to the window, thinking of screaming for help, but outside was just darkness, the streetlights flickering in sync with the lights in his house. The voice returned, louder now, as if circling him, mocking every breath he took with. Its taunting rhythm. Jayden inched backward as the living room lights flickered again, casting jumpy shadows that seemed to move even when he stayed still. The flashlight trembled in his grip, the beam sweeping across the hallway as he crept toward the front door. He reached for the knob and turned it, but it wouldn't budge. The lock felt jammed, like someone had twisted it from the other side. Panic surged through him. He yanked harder, rattling the entire doorframe, but it held firm. That's when he heard the footsteps. Not heavy, not adult. Light, quick, uneven, almost playful. They echoed across the ceiling like someone was skipping from one side of the attic to the other. His head snapped upward as a faint thud landed above him, followed by silence. He didn't dare speak. The only sound now was his own breathing, sharp and fast. Then the creak of the basement door slowly opening behind him. Jayden froze, his back facing the kitchen, his eyes locked on the hallway. The sound of the hinges groaning open was long and slow, as if whatever opened it wanted him to hear every second. A wave of cold air rolled across the room, brushing the back of his neck. The flashlight flickered. He tapped it, but the beam dimmed anyway, and then something moved at the edge of the hallway, a quick flash of motion, too fast to focus on. He turned toward the basement, the door now wide open, a void of blackness yawning beyond it. From the darkness, that same voice returned, giggling between words. It echoed from below the floor, deeper than before. Jayden took a step back, and the floor groaned loudly beneath him, as though reacting to his fear. The air grew colder, and the silence that followed was deafening. Jayden's breath caught in his throat as the silence pressed in. He stood perfectly still, the flashlight dim in his trembling hand, its beam barely slicing through the darkness anymore. The voice didn't speak this time. It didn't have to. Its presence was thick in the air, surrounding him like a fog. His mind raced, heart pounding so hard it echoed in his ears. He knew he wasn't alone. He wasn't even just being watched anymore. Whatever it was moving closer, a creak behind him. The floor, not from the basement this time. It was. In the living room, inside the same room as him. His skin turned icy, blood running cold as he slowly turned his head. Empty, but the shadows in the corners looked deeper than they should have. Darker, like they weren't just shadows anymore. The voice returned, closer, right behind him this time, so close it tickled his ear. He spun around, but again, nothing. Just the echo of the words that hung in the air like smoke. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked and died in his throat. His knees felt weak, legs ready to give out. He backed into the corner of the room, trying to press himself against the wall, as if it could protect him from something he couldn't see. The lights flickered one last time before going out completely, plunging the house into darkness. Only the pale beam of his dying flashlight remained, casting shaky, narrow light that barely reached across the room. And then it happened. That voice, no longer a whisper, no longer distant. It was next to him, right beside his face. He could hear every syllable, every drop of malice dripping from its words. The words were slower now, darker. He didn't have time to run or scream.